Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Carol's Courage to Confidence Corner. If you're here with us today, tell me in the chat, what's the weather like where you are? It is absolutely gorgeous here in sunny South Florida. Now, if you're a true Floridian, they have on parkas. It's 49 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. It is beautiful and sunny. So hop in today. I'm looking for lots of engagement because we have an amazing, amazing guest today. Her name, I'm just going to give you her first name right now. It is Vaishali. And she's going to talk to us about how business psychic readings, think about that. I'm really excited to learn about this, can uplevel your income. She is the go-to expert for entrepreneurs and business owners who would like to see through to the future. Think about that. If you had an idea that the decision you've made was going to get a certain outcome or a different decision could get you a different outcome, would you be interested in that? Well, of course we could, right? We all want better future and better outcomes, and Vaishali is going to help us get it. So give us a warm welcome to Vaishali. Good morning,
Yay.
Vaishali.
Good morning. It's so nice to be here.
Oh, I am so excited to have you here. Let me see if there's any. Oh, got a couple of comments in the chat already. Look at that. Hello, Alex, and hello, Crystal. You are in for a treat with Vaishali. Thank you for joining us today. Make sure you have any questions, put them in. We're going to pick her brain today. Vaishali, one of the things that I'm really excited to learn about is, where does science meet woo? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. I just have a quick thing. Is it possible to get this on my Facebook Live or no?
No, not right now.
Okay, got it. All right. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself and how science meets woo is possible. So, hey everybody, my name is Vaishali, and I have actually an engineering degree. So I used to design computer chips. I have a master's in electrical engineering. So,
Wait. You've gone from one extreme to the other, right?
yes, absolutely. So I used to design computer chips, and so my background is mainly like science and math, and I was very good at math, and I'm still good at math, and I'm still good at science. It's just that I haven't been in touch with doing physics equations or solving mathematical problems. So I'm bringing them over to the other side. And what's the other side? The other side is woo woo, or spirituality is another way of saying it. So it depends on whom you talk to. But at one point in my life, I was at crossroads, and I was trying to figure out what is the way out. And I decided to seek help. And the help I sought was calling up some psychics. Such a brilliant idea. Because psychics are supposed to see the future. So I said, oh my God, they will actually tell me my future. Yay, let's do it. So I decided to go that route. And after consulting with about 40 to 50 psychics, I realized, oh my God, these people are like clowns. They have no clue what they're talking about. I can figure this out myself. So I decided to figure this out myself, and I decided to learn how things work. If you can actually see through the future, and if you can actually predict things that are actually verifiable, like, if I, in science or in anything else as well, what you do is you do something that can actually be verified. Like, if I give two apples and then two more apples, that's four apples.
Yes.
So you can visually see them and touch them and feel them. So they are four apples, right? So
Right.
that is what science is. And in spirituality, you can do the same thing. You can actually make a prediction, and it can be verified. The only difference is the concept of time. So in spirituality, there is, I want to say that there is no thing as time, or time is actually looked at very differently. So time is multidimensional. Time is not linear, but multidimensional. What does that mean? It means that the past, present, and future are all happening at the same time, which means that by sitting here, I can see what has happened in the past, and I can see what's coming in the future. And by using that information, I can actually maneuver or manipulate things to my advantage. And that's really what the business psychic readings do. You can take a peek in the future, and based on what's coming, you can actually tweak or change things based on how you want the outcome to be.
That,
I
that that's incredible.
It actually is. And when I first learned it, I was very, very fascinated. So, coming from a background of science and used to verifying things, this is what I did, which is I would say that, man, can you really see through the future, like 6 months, 9 months down the road, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months? If you can, then you should also be able to see backwards. And you can see like maybe like 3 weeks, 3 days, 3 hours. So I said, let me verify it within an hour's time frame. And if it doesn't work for an hour, forget it. It's like of no use because I should be able to do it for an hour. And that's how I started doing it. I started experimenting it in 1 hour increments to see if it really worked. And once I was able to get verifiable results, then I started looking at a little bit longer or bigger time frames. And I started predicting things and events and so on and so forth. So that's how it all got started. And I have a podcast by the name The Uncanny Link, where science meets woo. And I talk a little bit from a very fundamental level, from a very basic level. You don't need to know anything about science. You don't need to know anything about spirituality, but more like a kindergarten level. I talk about how things evolve. And if you catch from episode 1, you will kind of learn how to go up and see how science and spirituality meet.
I'm fascinated, by the way.
Thank you. I thought I downloaded a lot of information in a few minutes.
No, you did, and we're already getting comments. Alex said, "I made a live today on my profile explaining the power of divination." Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
To make informed decisions and be prepared to the challenge that shows up. Awesome, Alex. And Terry Robertson Pugh says, "Hey, Carol. Hey, Terry. Welcome. Say hey to Vaishali too."
Hello.
I do find this fascinating, and I remember probably back in 2016, I was actually in a mastermind, and my brain is very analytical, not the engineer type, but it's very analytical, it's very logical and practical like that. And I don't remember what exercise she took us through, and she said something, and I just kind of looked at her. There was like 10 of us on this mastermind, right? When Zoom was kind of first, I think we were using whatever that other platform was. And I must have had this quizzical look on my face. And she said something, and I said, I'm trying to reconcile that with my religious background. And that was the first time someone kind of took me through some of the steps of what you're talking about. So I'm still very new to all this, and that's why I'm so excited to have you here. And I also saw where on your bio, tell us a little bit, you've gotten some amazing results for your clients.
Absolutely. I had to change my pricing model because of those results.
Good for you. I'm sure the price went up, I hope, because you bring a lot of value, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, if I can make you 35 or 70 grand in 5 minutes, what would you pay me?
Exactly.
So I'll just talk a little bit about example and how looking into the future can really help with a real life example of somebody that has actually read with me. She actually is a current client of mine, but we'll just stick to what has happened without going into the details.
Okay.
So essentially, she was trying to put a bid on a contract, and the bid she was trying to put was $225,000. And she was very, very nervous. So she wasn't sure if she should bid higher or she should bid lower. And she knew that that was about the right range, like 200, 250. She said, I think this is about the range, 200, 250. And she was like, I don't really want to leave money on the table, so I don't want to bid too low. And I don't want to bid too high either, because if I do that, then, I'm going to lose the whole thing and I'm going to have zero. So what should I do? So this is like one example where you can literally leverage kind of your intuition or using a business psychic to see through things to be able to get the right amounts. And luckily, I had already practiced a lot with determining numbers and stuff. So I gave her the number, which was like 260,000. So I said, you could put at 260 and still get it. And above that, it's going to fall off. So she put in a bid for 260,000 and she actually won the contract. So literally she won, she went from 225 to 260, which is I think 35,000.
Yep.
And she was willing to go as low as 200,000. So there you go. You have 35 to 60,000, depending on how you look at it, in a few minutes. It only took me some years to learn all this.
Exactly, right. And people pay you for speed and for value. And you know, someone said to me the other day, "Wow, you did that in a couple of minutes." And I said, "No, that's taken about 50 years."
There you go.
Right? It's taken about 50 years. We have a question for you. Terry says, where do we register for the online giveaway? Terry, we're going to give you that till a little bit toward the end. So make sure you stay to the end. We definitely want to get you involved in her giveaway. She says hi to you, by the way.
Hello.
And yeah, it's everybody. She's got 10 spots. Everybody wants to get in on this giveaway. Alex says, got to go. We'll watch the replay. And thank you for picking this topic. She loves this topic.
Yay.
Alex is actually a shamanic priestess.
Oh.
And is a client of mine. So I'm learning more and more about what you do as I'm helping her grow her business. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, neat.
So how does one know? What I heard you say was you interviewed 50 or 60, 40 or 50 psychics, and they were basically full of crap, right?
Pretty much. I didn't say it in those words, but yes.
Those were my words, and I wish I had Suzanne's little thing here from our event, and I would have held it up, right? The little sign. But those are my words. But how does one come to trust you? Obviously, you're getting great results for your clients, but if I was just looking online, help me understand what makes you different from maybe the other 40 or 50 I might interview that are just like not going to get me anywhere.
Right. So I think there's a couple of different things. It's like choosing, how do I say it? It's like choosing a doctor or choosing a house, you know, like how is one house different than the other? Or how is one physician different than the other? You know, both of them have the same degrees. They have gone to the same school. But, you know, why should I choose number one versus number two? And it's all a matter of chemistry. If everything is the same, you know, maybe one has better reviews than the other, but maybe you don't get along. So you cannot work with that person because, you know, there's a basic problem. So if you can't work, it doesn't matter how good he or she is. It's not going to matter, right? So that would be one thing. The second thing would be like specialty as to what it is that you are looking for. So in terms of a business, you know, there's a lot of things you can see through or you can look for. And a lot of it is also results. So what got me out of those 40, 50 psychics is I told them that, listen, give me something verifiable, which you predict and which I can verify in a week or 10 days, and I can see it play out, and then I will believe that it is real. Otherwise, why should I, right? Would you? I wouldn't.
No, I agree.
So show me something that is verifiable. And that was like my basic premise before I even got started, that unless I can verify this for myself, I'm not going anywhere with it. And so when I started doing those 1 hour experiments, you know, I would go to the gym in the morning. Before going there, I would actually do a reading on what's going to happen in the gym. And then I would come back and I would see that it played out. And this happened like on day 1, day 2, day 3. And I kind of got annoyed at that point. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, how can I know the future before it has happened? Something is wrong here. So, and I said, if that is the case, then that means I have the ability to change my future. And that's what I'm going to do. So I decided that day that, so it was actually a day where I would do cardio, which is I would either run or go on the Stairmaster. And I said, you know, today I've had it. I said, I cannot let somebody else tell me what my future is looking like. I'm making my own future. So I said, today if the reading shows that I'll go on the Stairmaster, then I'm going to run. And if the reading shows run, I'll do the Stairmaster. And that way I will be right. The reading will be wrong. So do you want to guess what it showed? Because it showed that no matter what I did, I would be right and the reading would also be right.
Help me understand that.
So it showed a woman at crossroads, which means that no matter what I chose, I would be right, and so would the reading be. I think it just got it. Aha. So, yeah, so that day actually there was a switch in my brain that flipped, and I decided to explore this in more depth. And I started doing a lot of readings for myself, and then I started reading other people, and then I started honing on my abilities. And in the beginning, a lot of the people that came to me for relationship readings. So I would do what is known as future boyfriend or girlfriend description, and that happens to be one of my best-selling readings. Where you can learn more about your future girlfriend or boyfriend, what they look like, what profession they will have, what how you'll meet them, what is the time frame you will meet them, all those things. So you can leverage that on the other side for business. You can kind of figure out, like what kind of client should you be looking for who would help you get the $100,000 deal. Or who can lead you to that client. So whatever has been done in the personal space, it can just be projected onto the business space. It's all a matter of changing and tweaking the question. And that's why it's really important to be able to ask the right questions. And whenever you're doing these kind of things, you have to leave logic behind, because logic only has limited use, I want to say. You have to start using your imagination. And I figured this out when I first started reading, that people would come and ask me questions, and I would spend more time helping them frame their questions, because a lot of the reading would be dependent on the question. So I would spend a lot of time helping them frame their questions, and then I would read in like 2 minutes. So 10 minutes to frame the questions, 2 minutes to do the readings.
And that part, I have to tell you, I really like, because I teach and train on, and my clients that are here will tell you, I work in empowering questions, right? I believe the questions are the answers.
Yes.
And you're so right that people do not know how to frame questions. I mean, I gave a talk at a business luncheon a couple of months ago, and there was a gentleman, we went around the Zoom, and everybody introduced themselves. And this one guy reaches in, his name was Fabio, right? He had the cool dark hair, and Fabio leans in, and he's been a business coach for like 25 years. And I'm thinking, wow, he's done this like 10 times longer than me. So when I got into my talk and I said, who's willing to raise their hand and give me their definition of an empowering question, I knew he was going to raise his hand. And he did. He did. And now see, and I'm not even, don't even think I'm intuitive, but I knew he was going to raise his hand.
That's your intuitive psychic power inside you telling you.
So he raised his hand and he starts talking. And apparently I kind of did this. So he kind of did this and I kind of did this. Finally, he goes, this isn't working. And so I go, dude, no cigar. Like, you have no clue. People really don't know. So I think that's powerful. I know that you and I do that in very different ways, but it's just more evidence that the questions are the answers, because if you ask the wrong question, you get the wrong answer, right?
Absolutely. I think Carl Jung, he said that asking the right question is almost half the work, because you've already arrived halfway to the answer when you figured out how to frame the question.
Exactly. And another one I like to quote is Voltaire. Voltaire said, judge a man not by his answers, judge him by his questions.
Yeah.
So that is really cool. Hey, Kate Kavanaugh says, I am loving, in capital letters. I'm loving this. Thank you, Karen Vashali. Awesome, Kate. If you've got a question for her, pop it in. Terry's excited about the giveaways. So make sure everybody gets in the giveaways. If you have a question about what she does or how she does it or anything, pop it in. Let's ask her some questions. I know there's some brains out there besides mine that has some really good questions.
Well, I'm happy to chat about how things work until we have any questions. So I
Sure.
think one of the questions you asked earlier is about science and woo meeting together.
Yeah, that would really help me.
Yeah, so I think it's more of our physical senses and our spiritual senses. And I talk about this in my podcast. One of the episodes is called Five Senses Are Not Enough.
Okay.
So, what happens is we have a physical body, and with the physical body, we have our physical senses. So, we have our eyes, which we use for vision or seeing, and we have our nose, which we use for smelling, and our tongue for tasting, ears for hearing, and skin for touching. So, these are our senses and sensors. But these sensors have limitations. Like, when I'm using my eyes, I can only see what is in front of me. And most of us are fortunate enough to have two eyes, and we can see what is like in front of me. I can see what's in front of me. I can see a little bit on the sides, which is like my peripheral vision.
Mm.
And if I have to see what's behind me or what's happening in the other room, then, I have to either turn my head, unless of course I have a mirror. I didn't think about that one. So I have to turn my head, or I have to use a mirror. I'll have to add that correction. Or if I want to see what's going on in the other room, I cannot be physically here and see what's going on in the other room with my physical eyes.
Right.
In terms of the spiritual senses don't work like that. And I mentioned in the beginning that there is no concept of space or time. And the way it would work is, as far as my spiritual senses are concerned, I can not only see what's here in terms of like what's happening. Usually, I won't use my spiritual senses, but I could probably see what's going on in the other room. Or
Mm.
I could also see, so that's like based on time. And then the other one is also for space. I'm sorry, that is for space. The other one is also for time, which means that if something is to happen in the future, I will see a vision of it. And I'll give you an example. That's known as clairvoyance. It's a sense of the spirit where we use our sixth sense or sixth chakra, which is like located right here in between the eyebrows, just above the nose.
Okay.
And so clairvoyance is being able to see something with your spiritual eye. And technically, it's the impression of an image because you're not really seeing the physical image because you're using the spiritual sense. So I was traveling, I was in the state of Washington, and I do a meditation at night. And when I was doing that meditation, clairvoyance is not one of my stronger senses. Actually, I have clairaudience where I can hear a soft whisper. It's almost like the universe telling me, go do this kind of a thing. Or there is another sense called claircognizance where you just kind of know something, you just know the answer. So those are like the three major senses.
Okay.
So I was sitting in my meditation at night. So I was in the hotel room, I was doing my meditation, and I kind of saw a weird scene. And the scene I saw was like my car was stranded on the side of the freeway, and I was like looking for help. And that really bothered me
Mm.
because it's not one of my stronger senses, and I haven't seen a vision like that in any of my meditations. I'm like, man, that's crazy. So I just kind of discarded it as I must be crazy kind of a thing. And I went to bed. So then I also do a meditation in the morning. So those are like my two things I do, night and morning.
Okay.
So I got up the next day and I sat down again for my meditation before leaving. That day I was leaving. So I was coming back to California. So I sit down in my meditation and I see the same scene, which is like my car stranded on the freeway. I'm like, oh my God, now, now, now I have to pay a little bit of attention. So first the universe gives a whisper, then it gives you a tap on the shoulder, and then the third one is a slap on the face.
Right.
So I said, oh my God, I have to really look into this because it is not a coincidence that I'm seeing the same scene over and over again. The universe is trying to tell me something. So then I sat down and did a reading because I'm very good at doing that. So I said, okay, let me just take a look. And as soon as I do the reading, it's showing that the car is going to get into some sort of an accident. So I said, oh my God.
Holy cow. Yeah.
And I had tried a few days back to swap the car because I don't know, I was just feeling very uneasy about the car and I needed a little bit of a bigger car. I think the size of the car was smaller and the wind was a little bit too much on the freeway, so or on the interstate. So I wanted something which was a little bit more stable. So I tried to swap the car a few days back and I wasn't able to. So what I did was I took a detour. So I went a different route. I went to the airport in Portland because at the airport you can always exchange cars. So I went to the airport and then I swapped the rental car and then I just came back home safe and sound and I was very grateful.
Wow. That's incredible. And you're getting lots of feedback here in the chat.
Okay.
I want to come back to that story though. A lot of interactive dreams. I'm not quite sure what to make of it. I've also been able to help others identify what their dreams mean. Is that clairvoyance? What is that when she can help others?
No, so dreams is a little bit different. So I have done dreams a little bit, but dreams is a little bit different because you have to also like retain what the dream was and then kind of use it, but you can also get information in the dreams. And essentially it's going into what is known as an astral plane and getting the information and then using it in our physical world.
Terry, let us know if that helped you out. Kate says, do you have any tips for strengthening your intuition and getting more in touch with the senses beyond the senses that you talked about?
Yes. So it's like saying, how do I run a marathon overnight? You cannot do it overnight. You have to kind of gradually develop the senses. And some of the ways you can do them is via meditation. That is one way. And another way is, I want to say like a formal training where you just learn to increment it step by step. But at the same time, you can also figure out which is your strongest intuitive sense. Like all of us is going to have a stronger sense. And then based on that, you can also look for signs or symptoms related to that sense and use that or leverage that to your advantage. And all these things, I'm saying it a little bit too fast in the interest of time, but I talk about all these things in my podcast in like different episodes. Like the story I told you about the car, that one is in episode 20. Okay. And I had forgotten about that story, but yeah. So that one's in episode 20. And the senses story, it's like 5 senses are not enough. So where I talk about all the senses, how we have physical senses, how we have spiritual senses, what are the differences, how you can use the information from these senses. I discuss all these things in detail.
Bottom line, folks, go sign up and listen to the podcast, right?
There you go.
Kate says, haha, the third time is always a slap in the face. Terry says, thank you. It helped. Kate says, this is great. Thank you. I will check out your podcast too. And Terry also asks, is there a specific meditation that you do? Is that something that you share, or does everybody kind of have their own individual when it comes to doing what you do?
So I actually went through school where I learned all these things. So there is a specific meditation that I do, and it is mainly to be able to clear the senses or to clear the energy, to be able to see through clairvoyantly or to hear clairaudiently and so on. So it's just like running, you know, when you are running or you want to run, let's say, half marathon. First, you run like 1 mile, and just 1 mile is a big distance because you've never run. Actually, this is my story. I had never run. I used to exercise a lot, but I had never run. So just running for a minute was like a big deal for me because I could run for like 10 seconds. So I picked up running from 10 seconds to 30 seconds to a minute to 2 minutes. And then, you know, I ran a half and a full. but but it took me a while. It took me like a year or so. First year I only did halves, and then the other year I did the full. So the same thing you can do with the senses. You just start building up upon them, and then you start leveraging the information you get from them.
And I don't think I've ever asked you this, but I heard you say that you went to school for this. Do people ever come to you and hire you to teach them to do this, or they strictly hire you to help them, see the future and make better decisions in their businesses and in their relationships?
So I used to teach these classes, and I kind of transitioned a little bit more towards the business side. And on the business side, most of the people are looking for the quick pill, where they take the pill and get the information. So a lot of them mainly come for the information. They don't have the patience to learn, but that's something that it can be learned. I teach those things. I'm not actively teaching it right now, but maybe next year I'll start teaching again if I have enough audience who's interested.
Well, you bring up another question, because one of the things I talk about and teach on is you can't read the label when you're inside a jar. And we're all in a jar. We're all in a jar. Mm-hmm. And like I tell my clients, but I can read your label and I can help you write a new label. So if we take that premise that we can't read the label when they're inside the jar, if I were to get you to teach me how you do what you do, could I do it for myself? Or is it kind of that same premise that everybody needs to have a coach, right? Because we can't see our own stuff.
No, you can do it for yourself. So you can do it for yourself to a certain extent. And then maybe a few things you would need somebody else to point out certain things. Like we all have blind spots. And sometimes we may not be able to see some of the things because we are kind of sitting in them.
Yep.
So somebody has to point that out, or there are other ways we can see our own blind spots. So we could do those exercises as well. But yeah, you can definitely learn it. It's a skill that can be learned, because I learned it. I knew nothing about it. And once I graduated, once I came out from graduate school, most of my work was in engineering. So this was all like very new. So I learned it. So it can be learned for sure. It's all a matter of time and space and patience, and how long you have to learn it, or do you want the information? And that's probably the reason most people are just looking for the information rather than having to learn it. There you go.
That's me. Just give it to me, baby. Terry says, thank you for sharing this, and I didn't know that it could be taught. I have to agree with Terry, because I've been guilty of saying I just don't have good intuition. And people like yourself that are more educated in it than I am say, no, that's not true, Carol. You have it. You just haven't honed it.
Yeah, and you haven't used that muscle. It's all a matter of using the muscle or leveraging the muscle. And once you start leveraging it, you'll kind of build up upon it, and then you'll know how to use it.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to let you be that muscle for me, and I'm going to keep working on my other muscles.
See, you came to me for the quick pill too. There you go.
Exactly right. That is just not something that I want to take the time to learn. I'm learning a lot of stuff, a lot of other things, but that is just that's not at the top of my list. So I'm your quick pill person. Give me the answer. I'm kind of that way with technology too. Could you just do it for me? Like, I don't want to learn how to do it.
Yeah, I think it's all a matter of priorities. Some people have different priorities. So if somebody has a priority for learning, then they'll learn. If somebody has a priority that, I just want an expert or a professional who will get me there, it's like doing a brain surgery. Like, would you rather learn how to do one, or would you just go and get one? But I don't think you can do yours anyway.
I'm definitely going to go get one.
There you go.
I've enjoyed this. Has been awesome. We'll have to have you back again after the first of the year.
Yay.
We'll have you back again, because we're getting great engagement, and talk about, maybe some tips and things that we can do for more success in 2021. I don't know. You and I'll chat about that. But
yeah, you know what? I was thinking I should just do like 12 days of Christmas for free business psychic readings and just share it all over Facebook. What do you think of that idea?
I think that's a great idea. Whoever's still watching, what do you think of that idea? Put it in the chat. So 12 days of Christmas, you would do
Yeah,
12
12,
readings.
12 days of free business reading. So I set up a time and I come on Zoom and I do live readings. And of course, there'll be a sale at the end.
Absolutely.
Don't be surprised by that, but you
No.
can get your freebie and see how it plays out.
Well, exactly. I'll come.
There you go. I got one person already.
Kate Kavanaugh says, "Wow, that's generous." Does that mean you're going to show up, Kate? Tell us. Better be giving us a hell yeah, I'm going to show up. Let's see. Yeah, no, yeah, I would definitely show up. Like I say, it's really foreign to me, but I'm fascinated by it, and I would definitely. And of course, you would want to make an offer at the end because you're showing people your value and why you're qualified to do what you do. And obviously, working with you over a long period of time gets you even better, longer term results and more value. All right.
Absolutely.
Kate gave us a hell yes.
There
So,
you go.
so after, yeah. So, you can we'll figure out how to get all these people. You can either go in when you decide the link, go into the chat after on this live and reach out to each one of them, or I can get you their contact information, however you want to do. But people are asking about how do they get the online giveaway today? How do they join the online giveaway?
So the online giveaway is for online course creators and spiritual entrepreneurs who are interested to grow their list. And essentially, you are participating as a collaborator. So what you would need to do is you would need to provide a freebie. And I'll be the host, so I'll compile all the freebies. And then all of us will market it to everybody's list. So essentially, you are leveraging the list of a larger audience. So think of it as collective list leveraging, and everybody gets to see all the gifts, and we all grow our lists that way. The way to sign up for it is there's a couple other things. Your list needs to be at least like 500 people. And I have 7 categories of gifts. I'll just go over the categories. It's self-help motivation, cash flow marketing, social media, authority, and visibility. And you can participate at 3 different levels: $100, $200, $300, depending on how high up you want to be on the list to be seen. And if you sign up today, then I will give you a 10-minute free business psychic readings. I never do them for 10 minutes, and I charge a lot of money, just so you know. So I'll give you a 10-minute reading. What you can do is you can actually verify that whatever I say plays out, say, in the next 5 to 7 days or 10 days. So I'll give you something verifiable so that you can see it play out and believe that this is actually real. So yeah, if you're interested to sign up for the giveaway, then message me on Facebook or Instagram, mainly Facebook. And I'm happy to talk to you. And if you want to take advantage of the free reading, then sign up today.
Fantastic. And one of the things I really like about you and about today is I never truly knew about that connection of making something verifiable in the short term. I think that's powerful.
Yeah, as a student of science, I had to see that 2 and 2 make actually 4 apples, right?
Yeah.
I have to see the 4 apples before I move forward. Otherwise, everything has no meaning. There's no merit. There's no basis.
And I think for me, that's just something that gives you even more credibility, right? Because you have that very scientific engineering. Everything has its place. Everything has a step background. And so for those two to meet and not only make sense, but be verifiable is incredibly powerful. So Kate, make sure that you PM Vaishali. And then what I'll also do is, as things, and obviously you're going to share this on your page today as well. And
yeah,
those spots will go very quickly, I'm sure. So if there's what's one last thing that you want to share? If people don't remember anything about today, but they remember one thing, what would you have them remember?
Geez. Remember to trust your intuition, because it will never fail you. And don't forget to listen to my podcast where you'll know how to trust your intuition. It's called the Uncanny Link.
That's where I am. That's what I probably need to listen to, because sometimes it shows up and I trust it, and other times I just totally ignore it. And I think it's just a trust thing. So I appreciate that. I think that's phenomenal advice. You have been an amazing guest. Thank you. Thank you for coming on, and spread the word, folks. We're going to have her back in the first quarter. Love to have you back. We'll talk about some other, other things that you do and up and coming things. And it's been an absolute blessing. And thank you for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun. And
fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, everybody, if you're watching the replay, make sure you put #replay. Make sure you reach out to Vaishali. She has given you a very generous offer that could turn your business and turn your life around. Why not? I mean, go watch her podcast. I'm going to. And come back soon. We're going to actually come back tomorrow. We're going to be having Marcia Glide on tomorrow at 12 o'clock noon in Carol's Courage to Confidence Corner. Be blessed and have a great day.